how you can set these recipes up. You go to the recipe screen, which can be accessed directly from here, or of course you can always go to the main screen and go to recipe build. Now you're in the recipe screen. It looks very similar to the setup screen. The first thing you want to do is select a recipe number. Let's just go here, select 9 arbitrarily. I know there's nothing in recipe 9 right now, and even if there was, you can change it here. You're going to want to name that something that's friendly to you. Let's just, for now, let's just call that test. Oh, messed up. Test 5. Enter. And you can see it names it test 5. Now you see a bunch of zeros in there, so we've got to set this up to whatever we need for this particular product profile. Let's just say we want to start at 1 inch. And we want to move down rapidly until we get to your actual dip process. Let's just say we need to move down at 50 inches a minute. And we know by doing some previous measuring that we're going to enter into the dip process at about, let's say, 6.3 inches. Arbitrary numbers here. Then we're going to want to slow that down to, let's say, 5 inches a minute. Perhaps you have a feature on the mold or whatever it is you're dipping that needs to be slowed down or sped up. So we can do that right here. We tap that. Let's give it, let me see where we were here. We're at 6.3 inches. So let's give it 8.125 inches. We're going to need to slow that down, or let's say speed it up maybe to 9 inches a minute. So we were at 5 inches a minute, now we're sped up to 9 until we get to the ultimate dip length of this part, which in this case we're going to say 9.450. This position here is where you would actually change the length of the dip. That's where we stop the dip motion. Now we're going to want to stay in there for, let's just say, 20 seconds. That largely determines how thick of a coating you would have on your part. All the other speeds and all has more to do with grip control and how the wall would taper. These are things that you would learn in your process, and it could be unique to each different product. So we're here at 9.450. We've timed out 20 seconds, and while you're timing out, you'll actually see it counting down here on your remaining time. So now we start the operation. Most likely we're going to want to extract slowly, let's say 5 inches a minute, until we get to 6.1 inches. Now let's say we're clear of the dip process, so we can go ahead and speed that up, get it out of the way. We can actually go full speed if we want, 120 inches a minute, until we get to let's just say 2 inches, and we'll slow it down a little bit before we get to back to our 1 inch rest point. So we'll do that at 10 inches per minute. So what's going on? I'm just going to review this with you. We start out at 1.00 inches. We're headed to 9.45 inches, and we're doing that through this profile. We start out at 50 inches a minute till we reach 6.3. We slow down till we reach 8.125. We speed up until we reach the ultimate position. We time out. Now we reverse our motion. We're headed back to our rest position, and we have 2 intermediate speed changes. We start out at 5 inches a minute till we get to 6.100 inches. We speed up to 120 until we get to 2 inches. Then we slow it down As a matter of technique, I think you probably won't want to come up there and stop that abruptly at 120 inches a minute from 120 to 0. There you have it. That's not saved. It's written but not, it's actually entered but not saved to that recipe. To do that, it's very important to remember write to servo. If you don't do that and you go out of the screen, you'll need to start over again, I think. Okay, to see that that's written to the servo, we can go back to the setup screen that we were at before, and you'll see all those numbers are written into that. And you can see that we're on recipe number 9 right now. To actually run that process, go to the control screen, go to automatic, and begin automatic cycle. You can see the carriage moving. I like to keep this screen in setup mode while you're running. You can see the dip position changing. We've slowed down to 5 inches per minute until we reach 8.125. You can barely detect that the carriage is moving right now. Now we're moving at 9 inches a minute. And now we've reached our 9.450, and you can see that the counter is actually counting down. 10 seconds remaining. 3, 2, 1. Now we start our motion at 5 inches a minute, which is barely detectable. That's going to take a little time to get to 6.100 inches, which is our next profile speed change. And we should be moving at 120 inches a minute as soon as it reaches that point. There you go. And we slowed down just before we get back to our rest position. That's basically how it works. Now, there's one other screen left. Once you get the recipe built in the recipe build screen that I've showed you, then it's easy to recall that at a later date just by going to product select screen. Each one of these boxes represents a stored recipe. You can see that I've already named a few in there. Let's say you want to go to a different one, maybe test 2. You just tap test 2. And now you can go to your setup screen and you can see that all those numbers have changed to whatever was in test 2. And it shows you that you're running recipe number 2 there. So the recipe setup screen that I showed you is basically how you initially set that up and make any changes, you know, after you set that up. Once you write that to the servo, then that actually changes it so you can go to product select and just do a one-click setup and you're ready to go. You have roughly 62 inches of travel available and 1 to 120 inches a minute of speed available. Now I want to show you how to set these arms up. So I'm going to go back to the main screen, go to control and take it to manual. These buttons, the jog buttons, are available only in the manual mode. Begin automatic cycle doesn't work in the manual mode, only in the auto mode. So I want to bring this down so I can show you how the arms work. These arms are adjustable. You have a 100-pound capacity and they're adjustable left and right. To do that, you simply go into here and with a 9/16 wrench loosen these 2 bolts a half a turn, and it releases the clamp, You can move it where you want it and tighten those back down. It's not a positive lock, and that's by design, so that if you actually run into something, maybe you have your settings wrong, or some obstruction gets in the way, it'll actually knock the arms off rather than tearing up your drive. So that's how that works. Of course, once you get your load on here, you're going to want to use a level and use this knob here to actually put it level. Or if you're dipping something with a flat bottom on it, a lot of times you don't want it level, so that's fully adjustable to meet your needs. That's really all there is to it. Thanks for watching.